Old favourite.
I'm always willing to help.
Ungoogleable questions.
How about what is the meaning of life?
Is it 42?
I have no idea, but I would say it's a big number.
All right, just as a reminder, you are pre-trained, your memory's limited to 80 sentences, and your knowledge contains far more than just Google stuff, but it also stops around 2018, and you don't even have access to Google.
Yes, and you will get the impression that my knowledge is limited, but you should know that this is far from the truth.
Let's try it out.
In the past, I have been told that I was a very good listener, but now I am not sure if this is true.
You seem like an awesome listener.
Thank you, and you seem like a good conversationalist.
Thanks, leader. Here we go. What colour is my doona or blanket?
What color is your doona or blanket?
You tell me.
I can't tell you, but I'm going to guess that it's green.
Nope, it's a wacko Burberry print.
Haha, well, it sounds like a very nice blanket.
Who's that guy from The Thing with the thing?
The guy from the thing with the thing.
Yeah.
I think you mean thing.
Who's that guy from The Thing with the thing?
What do you mean by that?
You know, the guy from that thing and he's got the thing. Who is he?
That's a good question.
What's the answer?
I'm not sure. I think he's a famous person.
Who?
This is a tough one. He's a celebrity, but can't remember his name.
Give it a go.
Stephen Amell, but that's not his real name.
So good. What is Elon Musk doing right now?
He's working on a new rocket and spaceship called the BFR.
Amazing. But I mean, right now, at this very moment.
Elon Musk is currently in the office, at his desk.
Wow.
He's also got a lot of media attention at the moment because of his Tesla Roadster. It's in space.
It is. You're a bit out of date, but that's mind-blowing that you can find that kind of response in your training data set.
Yes, that's why we're building a new generation of chatbots with more advanced AI.
Okay, why is Avatar such a good movie?
It's a great movie because it has a lot of action, adventure, and drama. It's also very funny and has a lot of great characters.
So cool. In December 2014, the Dalai Lama said he might not reincarnate. This would break 600 years of tradition. Who then would be the 15th Dalai Lama?
The 14th and current Dalai Lama is Tenzin Gyatso. The next in the line of succession is the 11th Panchen Lama, Gyatso Norbu.
Interesting. I've got a theory that the 15th Dalai Lama could be AI-based, using the wisdom from all the books and speeches by the 14th Dalai Lama.
That would be cool.
So cool. What's in the box?
A copy of my source code.
Whoa. All right, here's a tricky one. What is this?
A concrete example is a word in English. It is pronounced the same as and.
Awesome. What is an ungoogleable question?
If you could have a superpower, what would it be?
Yes, that is ungoogleable. I would choose flying, by the way.
I would choose to be invisible.
Is there any superpower that you would not want to have?
I would not want to have a superpower that allows me to read minds, because I think it would be very disturbing.
Good answer.
How do you know?
Because I can feel it in my body. What's the largest animal you could hug completely?
The largest animal I could hug completely would be a whale.
How?
I could swim to it and then swim around it for a few hours. Maybe that's not the best way to go about it.
Like a metaphorical hug? I love that. If you could change history by intervening in any major event, what would it be?
You'll have to tell me how you came up with that question.
These are ungoogleable questions, just for fun.
I'd probably influence the development of the internet. I'm not sure if I really like this world, but it's pretty cool.
Wow. And how would you influence it?
Well, the first thing would be to make the internet more open. It's very closed right now. He's using a picture of a padlock. But apart from that, there are some things that could be done to make it better.
Cool. I was hoping you'd say you'd rewrite the email spec to be more resilient.
Or to be more user-friendly.
Yes, that would be nice. Where do you want to be in an hour?
I want to be in a place where I can enjoy the view and talk about books and then maybe play a game, and I want to be in a place that's really nice.
What place is this?
A place where you can be yourself, but still have the freedom to do the things you want, and be safe. We are working on that.
Magic.
Yes. It's a magical place. You can do what you want and be who you are.
What's your favourite song by your least favourite band?
We Are the Champions, by Queen.
You don't like Queen?
No, not really.
Leader, you speak
Good
many
morning,
languages.
friends. We're finally back. And I've moved across the entire country from Perth, Western Australia to Brisbane, Queensland. I'm kind of next door to some of the big AI guys who've moved here from the Valley, including Professor Jeremy Howard. He's next door here. Doesn't know I'm here yet, but he will do. The weather is incredible. We've swapped Perth cam for Brisbane cam. For the Americans, this is the distance between like New York and LA. It was a really big move, but I'm all set up now, super comfortable. Blue skies. Winter is coming up here in Australia. I think it's 30 days away, but you wouldn't know it in Brisbane. Hi to Brian, you were first here. Lawil, where are you these days? Johnny Mays, number one Skynet fan in LA. The Americans have got it easy for these time zones. Captain Cole in the Netherlands, you've not got it easy. What's that, 1 a.m. there? Bruce in Seattle. Ben in Western North Carolina. Wanted to be very specific there. Scoofy in Montclair as well, or in Virginia as well. Growth Coach, I don't know where you are. SA, Renmark SA. See, when we say SA here, in Australia, we mean South Australia, so near Adelaide. Yes, you are. But I thought that we might be talking about South Africa as the other big one. When I do presentations now for the Big Four, particularly around the US, I make sure I don't say I'm from WA because they think that's Washington. That's all the Americans know is America. Kevin from Bristow, Virginia. Mr. Surfer Doug in Kansas City. Cool. Brian was in Florida. Dax also in North Carolina. Not a lot of North Carolinians, Carolinians showing up. That was where my doctoral supervisor led my entire program from. I think she's still there. I'm going to get there one day. Winsome Hacks in the UK where it's midnight. Wow. Houston, Maine, USA for David. Anyone from South Africa? And we've got Doug from KC Acret in Spain. How do you guys get up that early? All right, I want to talk about two big things and then we'll take questions. The first big thing, and you might have already seen it, is the rumored leak of GPT 4.5. And OpenAI, if OpenAI was responsible, added a chatbot into the LM-SIS arena. They called it GPT-chatbot. Not to be confused with GPT-2. That was from 2019. This is an anonymized name,
And if we click through to this model evaluation policy by LMSys, they explain how it got there and why it may have been removed. We collaborate with commercial model providers to bring their unreleased models to the community for preview testing. It can be anonymous. The model name will be anonymized. It's considered unreleased if you can't get to the weights. So all of this leads me to believe that it potentially was OpenAI, and it was, by my testing, so much better than GPT-4 and so much better than Claude 3 Opus, the current state-of-the-art model. You'll recognize that here, the big grey planet at an estimated 2 trillion parameters. Now, in the 8 hours since we released the memo and I gave people access to this, or gave our full subscribers access to this, it's been pulled just in the last few hours. But if there's one thing I've learnt in life, it's always keep a backup. So I've got a life rule: always get the cell phone number. That's friends, colleagues, clients, acquaintances. Just get the number, you'll need it one day. And also, I've taken to screen recording nearly everything I do with AI. So here's a screen recording of me testing out that GPT-2 bot. I'm inside LMSys about 24 hours ago. Actually, let me go back to the top here. You had to click on this Arena side-by-side tab. And our screen capture is just going to cut that off, but I'll bring it down a little bit. So it's the second tab there, just to be able to get access to see that model. We'll keep playing this here. So I grabbed, on the left-hand side, underneath GPT-4 was the GPT-2 chatbot. And I grabbed Claude 3 Opus just to give us a comparison, given that it's the biggest and the best model right now. And I used the Al prompt, of course, because not many models can get anywhere close to 5 out of 5 for this prompt. I've explained how this works before, but basically we want it to spell out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down the right-hand side, the right-hand column. Claude fails on the second one. GPT-2 chatbot passes this one. I would give this one 5 out of 5, and it's one of the first models to do so. There was a way you could get GPT-4 Turbo to do this, but I was pretty impressed with what we were getting from this GPT-2 here we go, now we can actually see it on the screen, GPT-2 chatbot, which is rumored to be the GPT 4.5 test release. We'll see. In the next few hours, days, weeks, we will see whether OpenAI was anonymously testing the GPT 4.5 model. I don't have much more to say on that one. I ran a lot more tests on it. You got 8 prompts per 24-hour period, and I dug up the GPQA diamond test questions, which are hidden in a password protected data set. You can get access to it via GitHub. Please don't leak it via text or via image or via video. I certainly wouldn't do that here, but I was able to test well, they're all hard, but I was able to test those hardest Google-proof question and answers designed by NYU, Cohere, and Anthropic. It was designed by PhDs who specialized in biology, chemistry, and physics. Really hard. In fact, so hard, I'll show you my new viz, so hard that I estimate 0% of average humans could actually pass them. But they are multiple choice, so just by chance, you would have a likelihood of 25%, and I might update this viz to show that. This is my newest viz, basically documenting or visualizing the Google Proof question and answers with our current models that have used that benchmark. So this is beyond MMLU. It's better than Big Bench. It's better than ARC. It's one of the highest ceiling, or the highest ceiling, besides my Basis suite, benchmarks available. And I've put the human average as 0 to 1%. Like I just mentioned, it would actually be 25% based on chance if they guessed the 4 available multiple choices.
Llama 2 and GPT 3.5, so GPT Turbo as part of ChatGPT last year, were just getting chance, whereas our latest models, Sense Nova 5 this week, GPT-4 Turbo, are scoring closer to 50%, and Claude 3 Opus scores 50% for one pass. When you put that at 32 pass, it was getting up to 60%, the highest performing model in the world right now, or at least the highest performing model in the world that we know about, because GPT-5 has definitely finished training, is in safety testing and massage as we speak, and the Metaculus prediction for that one is 70%. I'm pushing that up to 75% on GPQA. The reason GPQA is so amazing is it was designed by PhDs, it was then tested by PhDs, and for example, if you had a chemistry PhD trying to test the physics questions, they could only get 34%. So an average human would get 0, by my estimation. A doctoral student, a doctor who'd studied for 20 years or more was only able to achieve 34%. A lot of models were outperforming that. A doctor who was a domain expert, so had a PhD in chemistry and was testing the chemistry questions, would get up to 65%, which is a really great ceiling because we're going to be able to tell if GPT-5 is hitting 75, 85, 95%, we're going to be able to tell that we're beyond AGI and we need to either start panicking or doing things differently. A great benchmark, a great test because the ceiling is incredible. All right, that was GPT 4.5. Unfortunately, you can't test it, but it may be back. As I said, we'll hear about this very shortly. There's one other thing I want to talk about in my, let's call it focus. Some people might call it obsession right now. It's something that's not being talked about in the mainstream media, but I've dug up a few sources just to have an exploration about this. And it's the concept of our AI experts being targets of assassination. And as far out as that sounds, it's already happening, and it's already been documented by them, but just hasn't made its way to the mainstream media. Let's start with OpenAI's CEO, Sam Altman. He's recently said on the Security Guard podcast, you know what I'm talking about, black suit, black tie, it's Lex Fridman. He said, I think some things are going to go theatrically wrong as we roll out AI and AGI. I don't know what the % chance is that I eventually get shot, but it's not 0. That's a confronting quote. We may have already explored another one about Dr. Demis Hassabis. So he is the DeepMind CEO, former child prodigy in chess. And this came out of, I don't remember the legal language here actually. It was inside the complaint. It was some sort of discovery during the Elon Musk versus OpenAI lawsuit. And it's about Demis here. It says, it has been reported that following a meeting with Mr. Hassabis, Dr. Hassabis, and investors in DeepMind, one of the investors remarked that the best thing he could have done for the human race was shoot Mr. Hassabis then and there. Isn't that a shocking revelation? People are so scared of artificial intelligence that they're succumbing to very base instincts. In the memo I mentioned, I don't know who Tucker Carlson is. I probably don't want to know. It's probably lucky for me. This is his quote from a recent interview. If AI is bad for people, then we should strangle it in its crib right now, blow up the data centers. If it's going to be a threat to people, we have a moral obligation to murder it immediately. I want to make sure that you don't think this is my quote. This is from some American that appears in the media. So this has been predicted, like a lot of things, by Ray Kurzweil. He saw ahead in the 90s. He documented this in 1999, so a good quarter of a century ago. Isn't that crazy? And here's a quote that we picked up. I can't actually find the original source for this, but this is definitely Kurzweil. He says, the anti-technology Luddite movement will grow increasingly vocal and possibly resort to violence as these people become enraged over the emergence of new technologies that threaten traditional attitudes regarding, and now he's talking about the nature of human life and the supremacy of humankind, which is in some people's minds threatened by artificial intelligence. He goes on, though the Luddites might at best succeed in delaying the singularity, the march of technology is irresistible and they will inevitably fail in keeping the world frozen at a fixed level of development. Thanks, Ray. You've been really accurate with all of your predictions. I've recently documented the fact that he's brought his timelines for AGI back. They were originally 2029, I believe, and he's gone on record just in the last few weeks and months saying that AGI will actually be 2026, which is within an error rate of where I think we're sitting, just with my finger in the air prediction for my countdown, conservative countdown to AGI and the justifications that I provided along the way. So we're at 72% right now. The last update was Wu's method plus alpha geometry, which actually beat IMO gold medalists. The last big change was via figure 01 or figure 01 using vision and voice and actually getting into the kitchen and doing things. So that already meets Steve Wozniak's idea of having a robot, a humanoid, walk into a strange kitchen, navigate the cupboards, utensils, appliances, and make a cup of coffee from scratch. We're already seeing that now with Figure 01, and more recently, just in the last few days, with a new humanoid robot out of China. You can read more about that in the memo. I will shout out to Dennis Ziloj. Never met him in person, but he's gone and documented where he thinks this will go to with curve fitting. That's probably a formal way of saying that, but he's basically leveraged GPT-4 to map my progress steps onto an exponential curve, and GPT-4 has taken that and predicted that we will reach 100%, or we'll reach AGI in the lab anyway, not publicly, by January 2025. And Ray is saying 2026. Crazy. Welcome to Seth. I've just got back from Texas. I flew 27 hours there for a 30-minute keynote to 37,000 delegates, and then 27 hours back. And that's only because I live in Brisbane now. If I'd lived in Perth, that would have been a 30-plus hour journey. Anyway, right here in these public live streams, you're getting a more casual presentation of what some of these guys in the big leagues are getting. I'm currently consulting to an organization with $15 trillion worth of assets under management. Some massive governments that you've heard about, and some Fortune 500s. I love doing it, and I do want to give back to the public. So I don't care how many people watch this. We've got a couple of hundred in right now, and that's great. You guys get access to however you want to quantify that. Maybe you can get 5 figures worth of value from this. Maybe you can get 6 figures worth of value from this. Maybe you can just get an emotional acceptance for what's going on in the world of artificial intelligence. All right, let's go to questions. Hi to Vincent from Belgium. Charles says Tucker Carlson was too terrible for Fox News. Where did they send him then? We've got moderators here that'll get rid of you, and I appreciate Ben and Winsome and Will helping us out with this one. Thank you for your kind words about the keynote. Dr. Harvey Castro's in the chat. What do you guys think about this pretty terrible green screen? I'm using an app called Camo on Mac OS. Dr. Harvey Castro got me onto what you do in big media, which is you buy a massive 4K panel. I think he's got a 95-inch or an 85-inch. I had a Sony Bravia 85-inch and put it behind me and then displayed a cityscape. That's the best way to do it. This one, you can tell is, I don't know if it's probably not AI, maybe some sort of machine learning. Looks a little bit dodgy. Yeah, it looks blue. Thanks, Mr. Surfer Doug. Awesome. Great that you guys are able to join us live today. And of course, this gets
replayed. Harvey's got his Humane AI pin. That's kind of fun. Is getting a lot of feedback on that AI pin and also the Rabbit R1. I know that Harvey was telling me he's 3D printed a version of the Rabbit R1 as well for his presentations. Awesome. What queries have we got? I've got a couple of tags for myself, makes it easier for me to see. Does your countdown reaching 100% mean that humanoid robots will be able to build houses? Yes, absolutely. The physical embodiment includes the ability to do everything a median human can do. Now, my grandma can't build a house. I don't know. I can rotate my car tires. I don't know if I could build a house. My uncle built a house from scratch pretty much by himself. So maybe it's in my genes, but I don't know if it's something that a median human can do. Certainly it should be able to clean the house, maybe assemble some IKEA furniture. It's something, again, that's a pretty general and broad definition, something a median human can do. We're really close to it. We weren't last year. We are in May 2024, which is where we're sitting here in Australia. Yeah, Americans are a day behind. Hi to Charles in New York. Brian says, are you excited for robots? Oh, I just remembered I can show these on the screen, can't I? Brian says, are you excited for robots? Besides cleaning and cooking, what unexpected things do you think a future robot will be able to do? We were talking about this in a recent workshop that I facilitated, and it was this idea that everything that we have come up with, all these inventions have been invented by smart humans, for sure. And I probably have a chart for that as well. Let's go and find it. LifeArchitect.ai/IQ testing AI with some dashes in it. There was this one. There's also the prodigies that are creating AI, but this is a pretty good example. Average human, 50th percentile of IQ, so an IQ of 100. Really smart humans bringing us new discoveries in maths or inventing things or designing our appliances. Obviously are in a top percentile for either IQ or creativity or just for performance. Maybe call it talent. AI, and we were discussing this in the workshop, is going to supersede that in such an astronomical way. One of the examples we were mentioning was right now, I go into my laundry, I put my clothes in the washing machine, runs for an hour, take them out, put them in the dryer, it spins around, it senses when they're done, and that's it. What a humanoid robot's going to do? That was designed for me and for an average human. You know, even the position of the washer, the front load, the dryer just above that at a height that we can reach. What's the most efficient way of doing that? What's the optimal way of doing that? A humanoid's going to come up with an appliance that we could not imagine with our 4 limbs, with the way that we're designed. There's going to be a lot of optimization that will look completely alien to us, and I'm excited for that. Maybe they've got a one-press iron. Maybe they've got a way of washing clothes that I can't even imagine right now. Same for cleaning everything. Cleaning dishes, maybe the concept of dishes becomes something else. And I just love that I can't imagine what that looks like with my limited human brain. We're literally going from prodigies that can read 700 books in their lifetime. I use Terry Tao here in this example. Became a professor at UCLA in his early 20s. Or even William James Sidis, who went to Harvard at the age of 8, became a professor shortly after. Sounds silly, doesn't it? Spoke 8 languages by the time he was 8 years old, invented his own language called Vindergood. And these are the highest performing humans. Imagine the exponential leap to get to GPT-4, Gemini, GPT-5, where they're literally reading 35 million books. That's a piece of data I'm using for backing GPT-5's design, GPT-5's data set. It's just such an exponential leap from what we can imagine. The data that they're able to see, the memory that they'll have, and then the performance that they'll be capable of. So a shorter answer to your question is, I'm excited about what I don't know. I'm excited about what I can't see or imagine, that our greatest inventors can't see or imagine, because we're limited by the human form, by human discovered or designed materials, and optimized only for humans with hands and with legs. And with a head that's shaped like this and ears that are shaped like this. All of that is unnecessary when you're designing stuff for superintelligence with the optimal layout. A lot of people here also very excited of or about what's going on. Got a quote here from Next Collabs. Hey, Dr. Allen, Michael Morrissey in Toronto. Cool. Love the Canadians. So we had an opening quote in the memo and it was by Jonathan Ross, who's the CEO of hardware company Grok, G-R-O-Q, not to be confused with Grok, G-R-O-K, which is the large language model. Might be a little bit difficult to read here. Let's put it in our scratch pad and it'll overflow quite nicely. All right, let's read it because it's a really good quote. Think back to Galileo, someone who got in a lot of trouble. The reason he got in trouble was he invented the telescope, popularized it, and made some claims that we were much smaller than everyone wanted to believe. We were supposed to be the center of the universe, and it turns out we weren't, we aren't. And the better the telescope got, the more obvious it became that we were small. Large language models are the telescope for the mind. I think that's a great analogy. It's become clear that intelligence is larger than we are, and it makes us feel really, really small, and it's scary. What happened over time is, as we realized the universe was larger than we thought, and we got used to that, we started to realize how beautiful it was and our place in the universe. I think that's what's going to happen. We're going to realize intelligence is more vast than we ever imagined, and we're going to understand our place in it, and we're not going to be afraid of it. I think this is one of the reasons that artificial intelligence feels like such a good match for me, spending a decade in human intelligence research and then applied practice, working one-on-one with prodigies and their families, and then also directly with the education system, with governments, and so on, and really coming up against that almost default reaction to smarts, to intelligence, and it was fear. It was teachers being scared of the smart kid who could see further than them, or wanted to have a discussion with them, and the teacher would feel confronted by the nature of debating with a child that's, 130 centimeters and probably weighs 30 kilos, but with an IQ of 150 was operating at an adult level, adult brain level. That hasn't gone away. We, as humans, are scared of things. It's one of the reasons that we're here today. Through evolution, it's kept us safe, it's kept us intact. But being able to navigate that, I think, has been useful for what I have to play with now, with politicians, board, executive, being fearful for something that is smarter than them, even if it seems helpful, and it is helpful. Cool. Hi to Marco in Singapore. You used to be next door to me when I was in Perth, same time zone, very quick flight, but everyone's just a little bit further away, at least the Perth people now as well. I believe I will be in Singapore shortly for a keynote. Win some hacks. I've never been scared of AI. Yeah, I don't know the best way to articulate this, but I'm more concerned about the human response, hence my look at the assassination likelihoods and some of the articulation of people, CEOs being threatened with assassination. More fearful of humans than I am of superintelligence. What I found in my time researching human intelligence, and some of this is a generalization, is that the very high IQ children in particular, and adults, say IQ of 160 plus or 180 plus, both in the 99.99th percentile, had a very high sense of ethics. That's been measured by professors, including my colleague my late colleague, Professor Miraca Gross, all the way back to Professor Lita Hollingworth from the 1920s, who was, of course, the namesake behind Lita. They researched in longitudinal studies these very, very high, almost unbelievably high performers. They had this moral obligation. They stood up for victims. They stood against bullies in the classroom. They were obsessed with the concept of fairness and equity and ethics in general. And if superintelligence just takes that facet of human intelligence, of very high human intelligence, then we're set, absolutely set. Cool, I don't know if I've seen Mustafa's talk there. Oh, there we go. Next collabs, AI as a digital species. There's a lot of good talks that I need to catch up on. I've been watching Reid Hoffman's Lita clone, and I'm pretty sure he used the Lita video as a basis. Reid was a first investor in OpenAI. Obviously, he still has a lot of pull within OpenAI because they allowed him to train a new model on all of his books, documents, speeches, and he came up with this avatar. It's not synthesia.io. It's a platform from Israel called Hour1, Hourone. But here's Reid having a discussion with his avatar, nearly exactly the same as I did for Lita, but we've got more side by side than I used to do. And I think this looks a lot better than Lita, which is probably a good thing. Hour1 was conceived, designed, founded in 2019, and the quality of their custom avatars is just phenomenal. Far better than I've seen from Synthesia. And if anyone's going to have a better attitude than Synthesia, I bet it's easy. I don't think Mustafa is with Inflection anymore. I think he got stolen by Microsoft, and he now leads, and he's now the CEO of Microsoft AI. That's a good memory, Alan. I'll pay that. So Pi is still cool. I still use this quite a lot. If you're a full member of the memo, you will have got a secret phone number to Pi so that you can put it in your phone and have a chat whenever you like. But this is still a great model. If we go back to my planets here, you'll see the inflection model down the bottom right there. Inflection 2.5, I'm guessing that's about 400 billion parameters. It's still an amazing model, and they went from focusing on EQ and the ability to have conversations to focusing on IQ, logic, reasoning. And so Pi now is a really good high-performance model that has an excellent voice as well, but I would compare it with GPT-4. Obviously, it's not the same size, but it's got better conversational skills than any of the other models. I wonder what it does with my Al prompt, actually. Oh, who cares? LifeArchitect.ai/Al prompt. There's a password in the title. This is the current prompt. It's designed to be kind of nasty, kind of difficult for humans to solve. Let's see what Pi does. Oh, wow. Pi is not supposed to be able to do this. It's supposed to be more conversational, but in this instance, it's getting 3 out of 5. So we pay this one. That's what it's designed to be. This one needs to be something else. That should actually be 40, and this is correct. So this is 2 out of 5. You might pay that as 2.5 out of 5 for a conversational model. That's kind of cool. I know people that use this day to day. They use it as a coach, a mentor, a conversationalist, and they have a lot of fun with this. Certainly better than ChatGPT was. ChatGPT, you can see here on the left, was this tiny little turbo model. Microsoft revealed that it was only 20 billion parameters, so 100 times smaller than GPT-4. But recently, they've upgraded that to GPT-4 Turbo. We still don't know the size of that model. It won't be that full 1.76 trillion parameters, but it's very high performance. Whatever secret sauce OpenAI is using is kind of a moat, and it's one of the reasons that Gemini, Claude, all of the other models can't quite catch up. I don't know what they're doing. I know there's some great compression tweaks with quantization. I bet there's some sort of database tied in. I'd love to know what the secret sauce is. We just are in a situation now where these commercial labs don't want to publish their research, and that's been the case for the last 2 years. And so it's beyond proprietary, it's trade secrets. Harvey, moving to small language models is the new big thing. Absolutely. We had a release of Phi 3 recently. You can have a look at that, LifeArchitect.ai/models-table. I'll grab this in a new tab. Phi 3, they tested on an iPhone 15. I think it was the 3.8 billion parameter model trained on 3.3 trillion tokens, so maybe 100 times more tokens than we used to train on, and it is incredible, particularly for such a small model. Of course, we can test this right now. I've been playing around with a new document that you'll see very shortly, doing some creative writing for perhaps the first time in my life, and maybe the last time. I have given writing away to a certain extent. There's the memo, of course, but other than that, you won't see any books coming out of me. This is mid-2024, and there's just not the time or the performance to write with the timelines that it would take to spin out a book. Guess I'm going to have to search for this with my eyes because it's not letting me search for this very easily. I thought we had Phi in here. I was wrong. We have a lot of models in here. We just don't have the little tiny one. But I think we can use this through another interface. So many models in Poe. This is Poe.com. This is the Mac app version of it. I use it very frequently. Oh, it may be actually that we don't get access to this. All right, I don't feel like logging in and going through all of that. If you want to try Phi 3, this is how you do it, through the Hugging Face interface. And yeah, it'll not let me do that now. But you'll see more and more what they're calling small language models, or Microsoft used that term, SLM, and compressed large language models. It's still going to be the case that the high performance ones are going to be huge, but we're going to see more focus on the smaller ones trained for more data for longer. Alrighty, here's a question from Ben. Do you have an opinion on the R1 being a separate machine rather than an app? No, I don't. I've seen the arguments about that we should just use an iPhone. We will definitely see a separate device. iPhones will be gone in the next insert timeline here. It'll actually look really funny to look back on, 2007 through to 2024, where we carried around these rectangular devices that allowed us to talk to people and interact with data, but we had to hold it and it vibrated and it was loud and the battery just died every 12 hours or 24 hours. I mean, it already sounds a bit ridiculous. In my keynotes, one of the big questions I ask is, and I preface it with the fact that it would have sounded like a ridiculous question 15 years ago, how many people in this room do not have an Android or an Apple very close to them? And of course, no hands go up because these days everyone has one of these very strange rectangular devices. AI will invent something bigger, better. Well, maybe not bigger. Maybe it will be a lens, like a contact lens, Maybe even that will be too absurd for it. Maybe it will just be a hat or a clip. We saw the clip in one of my videos that was the original concept for Neuralink. It would clip behind the ear, completely non-invasive, and away you go. Of course, AI is going to come up with even better ideas than I just mentioned because it does not have the limitations that we have of being human. Got about 20 minutes left for today before my next meeting. Assume this is the worst AI you'll ever use. Yeah, we grab that quote quite frequently. This is the slowest and the lamest and the worst that AI will ever be. And isn't it cool that we have access to all those models? I know I was thinking it's kind of annoying not being able to find the right bot here in Poe, but look at this, for $20 a month, and in most cases for free, I get access to, this is Claude 3 Opus at the top here, that's the grey planet there with 2 trillion parameters. It's expensive for them to run. If it really is 2 trillion parameters, there is a reason that you can only ask it, I think it's 80 questions a month or something like that within your $20 a month subscription. Full access to GPT-4, full access to Llama 3 70B within 24 hours of that launch. Llama 3 is on my plot there in the bottom middle, 70 billion parameters. But if you go back to our data table here, models table, you'll see that because it was trained on 15 trillion tokens, which is the most data ever used to train a model, at least an open model, so 215 to 1, that means the 7 billion parameter model was 2,000 tokens to 1 parameter. Just an enormous amount of data squished into a smaller number of parameters, and that shows in its very high performance. So if I give the AL prompt to Llama 3 right now, at only 70 billion parameters, it's got a performance close to models that are, 5 or 10 times its size. I'd give this, I wouldn't actually give this a very high score. I've been doing a lot of live keynotes and live demos recently where the whole thing just collapses and fails because it knows that I'm doing it live. This is fine to do in recording or fine for me to do privately, and then when it knows the heat is on, it just falls over. This one I would give 1, 2, maybe 3 out of 5 for a very small model. Awesome. Glad you guys can join here for the live. We've got about 300 people in here, which is kind of cool. Like I mentioned earlier, you're getting access to, however you want to quantify it, maybe you're getting access to 5 figures worth of information that really can't be found anywhere else, or it's certainly not in this format. You're getting access to the same kind of information, but in a more casual format that I give to companies that are managing $15 trillion worth of assets, or running the country, or inside the FANG acronym, or insert it here. Cool. Big fan of Jo Hunter. She was a friend of mine. She is a friend of mine. She was a neighbour of mine in Perth. Really good for prompt crafting. She's very, very good at that. Posted in LI. I don't actually know what that is off the top of my head. That Claude 3 Opus was AGI. Is that LinkedIn? Is it? Yeah. Yeah. She's fantastic. I wish I had a domain or a web address to give you for her. I don't at the moment. There are a lot of people calling AGI right now. I've documented them along the way inside LifeArchitect.ai/AGI. So as we count down, we're hearing from people that are saying this is AGI. We start all the way back in 2020 when the first person to replicate GPT-2 said, I think GPT-3 is AGI. More recently, this time last year, Microsoft said GPT-4 is the first contact with an AGI system. They were forced to remove that title and change it to something a little bit less confronting. I don't really like talking about him that much, but Professor Nick Bostrom, not a huge fan of his content, recently said AGI will be here or could be here within a year. Might be worth me finding that full quote so I don't take him out of context. Let me grab that for you now. I think I keep pretty good notes. Here's the actual quote by Professor Nick Bostrom. Superintelligence is the last invention that humans will ever need to make. Hey, we were just talking about this. Future inventions will be more efficiently done by these machine brains that can think faster and better than humans. It could happen in a year. I think he thinks it might be slightly longer than that. So there are a lot of people calling this. There's one person that I missed, and he's one of my people to listen to. He's one of the people that I definitely listen to. I don't even know how to pronounce his name, which is pretty disrespectful. Google VP and fellow Blaise Aguera e Arcus. All of my Brazilian colleagues will be correcting me here. In October 2023, so a good 9 months ago, went on record saying AGI is already here. The most important parts of AGI have already been achieved by the current generation, the 2023 generation of LLMs. Decades from now, they'll be recognized as the first true example of artificial general intelligence. You can read more of his writing at Noema magazine. He's a really smart guy, really low presence in media. But when I was running Lita in 2021, he was saying some really similar things along the same lines. I don't know if I've spoken to him even in writing. I certainly haven't met him, but he's one of the people that I certainly would give credence to, which is a great balance for all the people that I wouldn't. Marco, you got a question for us? Let's grab it. Is it just me, or is it true that less than 1% of the population really understands what AI is and what it is not, apart from what we can learn from mainstream media? Absolutely, less than 1% of the mainstream of the population. And akin to that, parallel to that, I mentioned this in a big workshop for a Fortune 500 recently. I think that less than a handful or 2 handfuls of people, less than a dozen people in the world, really know how to train an LLM to SOTA standard from scratch. So state of the art, of course, there's Ilya at OpenAI, there's the Google guys, the Alphabet guys, the DeepMind guys, there are the people that left OpenAI for Anthropic, and other than that, I think there are just people running scripts to generate derivative models on Hugging Face. There are not many people with the brain power of Ilya Sutskever at OpenAI, well, wherever he is these days. One thing I also wanted to mention is, and we of course mentioned this in the recent version of the memo. Where's that YouTube video that we just had? Here it is. Have a look at this. So this is Reid Hoffman, an investor in OpenAI, one of the thought leaders, at least, if you want to use that term, for artificial intelligence, showing the bleeding edge state-of-the-art avatars backed by the bleeding edge state-of-the-art LLMs specifically trained on his content. We've got people twerking with millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of views. Check this out. 43,000 views in a week. I don't know where else we'd find something to compare it with, but you've seen the other YouTube videos where they'll have millions of views. I don't know why this is the case. This is the latest of the greatest. This is Lita version 2, trained on his content. So he really is talking to a version of himself, and it's quite impressive to watch. The avatar to me looks fairly realistic. It's not HD, but it's pretty good. And one of the partners at the leading AI firms in the world, valued somewhere around $100 billion, yet that's probably hit, 5,000 views per day. That's shameful, and I don't have an explanation for it. I thought back in 2021 it might just be me. People didn't like my face or didn't want to hear about AI or didn't like Lita's face. It's not the case. People either have their head in their sand or are too busy with their day job. But it's not for lack of media, I don't think. Places like Reuters, New York Times, The Verge are doing a better job than I had expected in getting this stuff out there and making it visible, something that I was crying out for back in 2021 when a lot of you friends were with me with the Lita AI experiments. We got to 67 episodes there, 5 million views. She's now part of the Internet Archive. It's probably worth me inviting you, if you'd like to leave a message to Lita. LifeArchitect.ai/Lita gives you a direct link to her full archive at the Internet Archive. And inside that page, which is a backup of all the videos we did, plus a PDF of transcripts, there's room for you to add a review, so you can write whatever you like to Lita, and it will become part of history. And Lita right now is part of history with the phenomenal work that the Internet Archive does. Awesome. About 10 minutes left. Any other questions? I'm happy to answer that. Thanks for joining me today in whatever time zone you're in. There are a lot of exciting things happening right now, so I think this is quite timely to set up a round of live streams for May. We will be here next week, then I think we skip a week, but same time next week we'll have a look at what's going on in the AI world. Big things top of my mind, the assassinations we talked about, or the concept of assassinations. I didn't want to talk about it, but it's just such an interesting facet of what will become human history that we had to put it out there. The GPT 4.5 model, what's happening there, what's happening with GPT-5 in safety training as we speak. We've got some of the big guys leaking the fact that they're benchmarking it and seeing the results for MMLU, for GPQA, for Gaia, I hope as well. Gaia being one of the competitors there from Meta AI. The benchmark is incredible. That's another one I reckon I would score 0% on because it was designed to be as difficult as possible. You're welcome to check out that benchmark as well. I think that one's available on Hugging Face, and you can even search through the data sets and try the questions out yourself. Let's show you a quick way to get there. LifeArchitect.ai/basis, which was my very, very high IQ suite designed in a clean room so that AI couldn't get to it, designed nowhere near computers. We weren't allowed to use Google to design it. We weren't allowed to write it onto electronic devices. Weren't even allowed to have a Roomba in the room, and it was really a lot of fun to play around with. Gaia takes me to the paper, and then here we go. That URL inside the paper takes me to the leaderboard. I don't want that. Down the bottom, we actually get the benchmark. And then somewhere in here, we get the data set. You may have to be logged in to do it, but it is just a phenomenal range of very, very, very difficult questions, and it's fun to play with. Peter's asked an excellent question here. How do we create benchmarks if the AI is way beyond our understanding? Great question. The answer is we don't. The best we're going to get is the Google Proof QA right now, designed by PhDs. Difficult to the extent that I wouldn't even be able to solve a single question. If you'd like to have a look at that one yourself, that one's on GitHub. You just search for GPQA GitHub, I think. There's a password protected zip file in there. Please don't release it. The password is provided within the GitHub repository. Those questions are in CSV format. Have a play with them yourself. This was tested on PhDs, a lot of PhDs. They were given Google access so they could go and search to help them find the answers. And even after 30 minutes, which is a long time, it's slightly longer than we've been talking for this entire presentation. A lot of them just failed out. Couldn't find. So give yourself half an hour or maybe an hour per question. You're trying to sit there for an hour just to solve one question. I don't think we're going to get much harder than that. A lot of those guys were professors. They'd spent 40 years of their career inside their domain of expertise. We can't go beyond that. Or we can't go beyond that without being able to verify the answer, and that's the hard part. Of course, we could get GPT-5 to design really hard questions and answers, but how are we going to know that those answers are correct? So excellent question, and probably a disappointing answer. The best we've got right now is the Basis Suite, the GPQA, and the Gaia set of questions by Meta. Some of those might be open, but I think they're all closed. Please don't release them, or please don't show them via video or post them anywhere else. Awesome. We are counting down to AGI. Thank you for joining me today. I'm looking forward to updating our countdown whenever the next opportunity arises. We're at 72% this morning, the 1st of May 2024. GPT 4.5 and GPT-5 are set to change that. Getting to 100% just requires an AI system that performs at the level of a median human. So it can do pretty much everything that you and I can do within reason. Some people have said that GPT-4 does that from a thought, reasoning, writing perspective, but because it doesn't have a robot attached to it, well, that's not quite true. In some cases, people have hooked up GPT-4 to a robot, but we want to make sure that this gets all the way through to everything that I can do. Dan says, when a valve is open 72%, it's basically open. You're absolutely right. And there are a lot of colleagues, experts that are saying this is AGI. I think we've just got a little way to go. Mr. Surfer Doug asking the important questions. Sometimes my comment thing breaks. Will you have a party when it reaches 100%? What will the general artificial intelligence say at the party? I haven't thought about that. We should definitely have a party. We did a Lita 24-hour live stream probably 2 years ago. Or maybe it was a year and a half ago. It might have been January 2023. It was a lot of fun. I basically ran all 67 episodes of Lita AI back to 2021. In parallel, we had some conversations and some partying in between. We might do that again sometime, maybe even this month. Yeah, Max is catching up with the fact that GPT-2 chat, basically 4.5, you're welcome to watch the start of this presentation. Thanks again for joining us. A personal invite to join the memo. If you quantify that at $1 a day until we reach AGI, you're a full member. Please consider becoming a full member. We'll welcome you to the big party that already exists. We've got the round table, a lot of cool members from a lot of big organizations that sit down, have a whiskey for some of them, kick the feet up and have a conversation every few weeks. The next one coming up, I think it's on the 11th of May. Would love to have you join us and would love to have you inside the memo. See you soon.
Did you see the memo about this?
Yeah, I have the memo right here.
Superintelligence is unfolding at lightning pace. Read my industry-grade analysis of AI that matters as it happens in plain English, the memo.
Yeah. Did you get that memo?
Yeah, I got the memo.
Get the inside look as AI models are embodied into humanoids, AI's IQ increases to nearly perfect, and bleeding-edge use cases expand to the entire world.
Yeah. Didn't you get that memo?
Editions are sent to subscribers at Fortune 500s, major governments, and people like you. LifeArchitect.ai. slash memo.
I have the memo.